Now I think I'm violating every possible rule about YouTube. These people, when I watch the videos, they say, please like and subscribe. I can't. I don't give a shit about that. Please, I kind of. Well, everybody does, of course. But then they also say, you're supposed to make the videos. They're not supposed to be just all at one time, or you make them and screw all that. I'm just trying to get some of this done, and I'm going to put it on my website, and I want to finish this whole business of merchant pricing, corporate PPAs, and bankability of a merchant renewable project versus a gas-fired project, and hope the bankers can see the difference and see why you can lend at least something against a renewable project in contrast with a combined cycle project. Now I'm just going to go where we left off. I left off a last video. I started talking about these P99 hedges, and we could go to the wonderful Nord Pool website, and we could use the average if, and we could find typical daily profiles for different amounts of wind. So what I'm going to just review that a little tiny bit, and then I'm going to move into how there's horrible confusion for me about exactly how a corporate PPA works and why we should give a crap about it or not, how we should model it. What about the merchant tail? Well, how do these swaps and contract for differences work in the context of one of these corporate PPAs? So this is this P99 hedge when you have to do it because you need to find a fixed amount of wind. And so you're going to take these profiles, reduce them to P99, and then after you do that, this P99 is about 80%, but it's an annual P99, and it's kind of completely BS to call it a P99 hedge is totally absolute misnomer. And then we get into this big file that we're going to revisit, and each separate hour by hour, we compute how much the capacity factor of the wind is, but then we use a different shape capacity factor, which is different than the actual. Now, the shape capacity factor is reduced because it's supposed to be a P99, and then we can either buy or sell on the merchant basis. And if it was true P99, you'd almost never have to buy to replace the power. But because it's not really P99, because P99 on an hourly basis is so much different than P99 on an annual basis, it's totally uncomparable. So there are going to be periods where you have to buy power. When the capacity factor here is lower, you're going to have to buy power. There are going to be periods when you sell power, even though the shape capacity factor, whatever I call that, I made up a name, I suppose, is reduced. Okay, and then you can look and accumulate this with another sum if and accumulate this over months. And when you accumulate this over months, you can look and see how much exposure do we have to selling and buying. And this is when you get to sell the extra power. These little ones when you get to buy it, when we get into the crazy 2022 period that's the videos I really watch. I get addicted to those damn things about Ukraine. Then we now I'm thinking about that. We buy, and then sometimes we have a big exposure to having to buy merchant power, and we have negative cash flow from that, and then we can kind of look and look at our exposure. That's just a review. Now the remaining issues about all this corporate PPA is, number one, how does a corporate PPA damn thing really work? And it took so long for it. What's a virtual PPA? And let me just skip through a couple of slides. When I look at these things, they don't. What? Look at me. I can't even get a word out because they don't do much for you. And then finally, we're going to go through some credit risks and some other issues, and we're going to talk about really merchant risk. And there's one slide I want to come to, and we're going to show you how you do all of this. And this is the value of wind and gas. Do I have exactly the same thing? 79.86. And this is Copenhagen. This is other Denmark. Okay, let's look at Copenhagen. Now, just so you get this, this is the value of €1 per megawatt per year. So 100 per kilowatt. Well, you can compare 100 per kilowatt. You could figure out how much debt service you have on a kilowatt. Or the cost of a project might be 1,000 per kilowatt. Now, when we had this crazy 2022, we made €450 per kilowatt. That's half the cost of the wind project. That's the economics. More importantly, the volatility in the gas project is a lot more. Forget all this crazy year. All these things produced reasonable amounts of money on a merchant basis, and there's a very good reason for that. And that's if you think about making money on buying and selling gas, well, if there's a big surplus of natural gas in the market, or the demand for electricity goes down and there's enormous competition because the supply curve gets very, very, very flat, and I can't emphasize that enough, and that's why we need to go back and study all of this stuff together. Take a breath. When the supply curve is really flat, it's really hard to bid against other people. Everybody's got about the same cost. We've got this big block of flat supply, and you're going to make very little profit from merchant sales. Now, when the supply curve kind of changes, then we can make more. Totally okay. But look, when you're selling wind or solar, you take the total electricity price and you have virtually no variable cost, no fuel price against that cost. And so I know the bankers will never believe me, but by going to this wonderful Nord Pool, and instead of saying, okay, these consultants, Aurora or whoever, they were making the molds when I used to make those kind of molds, they just are really, they're doing a hockey stick. And, well, you could say this is a hockey stick, but that reflects the special circumstances. I would rather go backwards and see how much we've made and why we've made it and what in the future is going to be different than the past. And just think about it before you just start accepting these forecasts. That's where we're going. And basically, that's going to be the end. Okay, then I have different places. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And we're going to go through some merchant contracts. Okay, now, this is where it kind of came to me what a virtual PPA is. Okay, I don't know if I should do this. Let me do this. And can I do this? Okay, I'm gonna go to my something folder, and I'm gonna. I've been going crazy about this, but I'm sitting in Malaysia. I took a nice walk. It was kind of hot today, though. And hang on, where are my? I was going to show you a picture of my class, and I can't find it. Here we go. Okay, look at this. They're wonderful. Okay, look at all the. I miss them. Okay, and they made a selfie with me. I love it. Okay, sorry about that. Now, when we now I got myself off track, and I can't find the PowerPoint. Okay, now we're going to talk about these mid-streamers. I love teaching these classes in person, but I don't like it when somebody sits in the back and starts complaining all the time. We're really going to have that good attitude. I want to do this. Here, whoops. So here are where these are some mid-streamers, and let's talk about a swap contract. And let's talk about one in Malaysia. Here's the situation. Pretend Microsoft in Malaysia has a data center for the cloud. I said in my last video, the cloud is the biggest marketing fraud ever. When you save this video, when I save this video, it doesn't go to the clouds. It goes to a server that uses a lot of electricity. Okay, so it goes, we should say, instead of saving it to the cloud, save it to someplace save it to a big pile of electricity that we have to use air conditioning for. That's one of these data centers. Now, let's say Microsoft wants to have green power. Okay, of course, then they do, and so does Amazon and all these other people. I have a really good friend from Amazon, Satish, fantastic. Hope Satish, you don't get mad if I say that, but there are a lot of Satishes. And maybe Microsoft wants to fix their electricity prices, okay? But here's the problem. In Malaysia, they're not allowed to buy electricity from the grid, okay? They have to buy from the utility system or something else, okay? But then we go to a developer, and a developer, they want to sell power, and they want to sell power at a fixed price, too, to get their financing. They always have to take output risk. We know that. That means they have to take risk of the sun going up and down and more changes in the climate and more rainy seasons that come at a different time and everything else, okay? But they want a fixed price. Now, if Microsoft could buy directly from the developer, pretend that there's really a dramatic kind of open market, you wouldn't have to have this virtual PPA. But if you can't do this, maybe you can call this a sleeve. I can't stand just words. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that one. Okay, so let's make a picture of this. So there's our solar project. There's Kuala Lumpur. Pretend the data center's here. We want to build a solar project here, and we want to sell it down to Kuala Lumpur. That's this wonderful EU database. And now to illustrate, in Malaysia, they have something called SMP, System Marginal Price. It's dispatching. All of that stuff about dispatching and merchant power really applies here, except there's no demand elasticity. So it's like a cost-based dispatch system, but the price varies, and it's volatile, and it changes with the natural gas price, although we need a little bit of asterisk. The natural gas price, I think, is regulated, but that's the varying price. So you go to SMP, and I think maybe you can even get a history of that. Okay, so Microsoft, here's the solution. Microsoft can't buy from the grid. Okay, it has to buy from the utility company, a very wonderful company. The developer can't sell to Microsoft, but it can sell at the SMP. It's allowed to sell at that SMP here. So here it is near Thailand. It's going to sell at the SMP. How do you work this out? Well, you let the developer sell to the grid and get this varying price. And he can't finance. He can't get his financing. Then Microsoft makes a separate arrangement with the developer, basically a contract for difference, where if the price is low, Microsoft pays the difference. If the price is high, the developer pays something to Microsoft. So Microsoft is acting like almost like one of these mid-streamers, but it's not really. There's the contract. So again, I have to make it really simple. I can't do that. I can't. So the S&P price goes up and down here. Okay. And I put this slides basically back on the website. The agreed price is fixed. Production I'm pretending is fixed. This could vary. That's the big issue that I went through over and over and over and over again. Here's the price difference. So Microsoft pays, Microsoft receives, nothing happens, Microsoft pays, and Microsoft receives. And in the end, because the developer, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? They receive this, but then they receive the price difference. So they receive this, and then they receive this, so it comes to this. I think it's like 4 equals 2 plus 2, and it's 4 minus 2 equals 2. Okay, that's what we're doing. Not so complicated. But Microsoft, in this situation, Microsoft hasn't bought any power. It's just engaged in a financial transaction. That's your virtual PPA. We have to do something else. If Microsoft has this exposure to varying prices, and maybe that's totally fine for Microsoft, but if Microsoft wants to do another thing, which is essentially fix the prices, then Microsoft would have to go to somebody like a mid-streamer, so there would have to be a separate transaction. Okay, so there, and that's what I talk about on this slide. Okay, so you could have a virtual PPA just with Microsoft, but then fine, and that's part of it, and that's what you could call the virtual PPA. It just fixes it for the developer. It doesn't do it for Microsoft. We need to kind of understand the basics here instead of just discussing VPPA all the time. If Microsoft put some solar panels right next to they bought a bunch of land and put the solar panels right next to their their data center, or actually had the developer build the solar panels right on their land, and then they don't have to do this sleeve. Ooh, I hate it. I hate the words. They could, of course, make a transaction. They could have the developer come in, develop it right there. Developer takes some output risk, sells it to Microsoft at a fixed price. Microsoft pays it to developer, and we don't need this virtual PPA. It depends on kind of where you are. Instead, we have to look at these stupid. I don't know if I want to even do this, because they say a virtual PPA, and then they say the node, and they talk about the transmission risk, which absolutely could be the case. Here, if the SMP was different from here to here, somebody would have to take the risk of that difference in price and the variability of it, and you could do it either for Microsoft or the developer. Okay, so that's the basic overview. And this one, okay, project node, project company, produced, you buy the actual thing, and then you have a project company, but then they have a corporate off-taker, and this time they have actual or fixed notional amount. If it's actual, then it would be like a contract for difference. Fixed, it's like a swap that we discussed last time. And then you have the fixed versus a floating price. But that corporate off-taker ends up receiving a floating price, paying a fixed price, and the Microsoft, I can't look at that stupid little thing, but Microsoft, if the price is low, Microsoft has cash outflow. If the price is high, they have cash inflow. So they, in this kind of situation, they take some risks. Now, I don't know why I did that. This one, okay, I'm going to skip that one. I'm trying to. Then the bio itself. This is a diagram. Oh God, maybe I wasted a lot of time on this, so maybe I should. Here's this is my company, my dog. We're the developer. Here, this could be Microsoft. It could be a bank. It could be kind of anything. We get money from the market. We pay that same money if it's not got basis risk to somebody else, and then we get a fixed price. Not so. And at the end of the day, you make a model with a fixed price. And there can be a basis risk, okay, because if you buy power here and then sell it, buy power at your transmission location, and there's some kind of different price for the transmission location over here. If you buy it from here and sell it here, you could, there could be a basis difference, and that could be a risk. And because this buyer, especially if they're one of these midstreamers, they want to do it at a hub place where there's a liquid market where you can see prices, okay? Now, if there's a corporate buyer, let's do it like this. What a horrible diagram. Okay, here, this could be, whoops, I've got somebody coming in, and they're ringing the doorbell, and I've got to just a minute. I've got to stop the video. Okay, I'm back. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Now, I just imagine a young person kind of 1 or 2 years out of university sitting in these meetings and discussing corporate PPA and getting totally confused. And I do, but maybe I'm just an old man. Okay, at the end of the day, we would like Microsoft or Amazon or somebody, they would like to pay a fixed price. They could go to some midstreamer, and we could all do this with this middleman. We could, or you could have two midstreamers. They could make it with one midstreamer, another one. They buy power at a fixed price. Okay, then the midstreamer, and that's a financial transaction. Okay, the midstreamer takes that power, sells that power financially, not really. It's just a fake transaction, and I'm getting myself totally in a wound up mess. Okay, they go to the merchant market and sell it. So we've got that transaction, just money over here, and power going to him, to that one. Okay, is that all right? And they've got to get the power. They get it from the merchant market, but then we've got the developer. They get the money. I've got the lines a little bit backwards maybe. They get the money from the merchant market, and they pay the midstreamer. So the midstreamer gets spot power pays spot power. And it doesn't have to be real power. This is the big deal. The only real power is the real power that goes here. Okay? This is like a financial transaction, all this stuff. And then the midstreamer pays you at a fix. So at the end of the day, he's paying fixed, and the midstreamer just is right in the middle on both sides with the corporate buyer here. This you call the virtual PPA. This you could call some other thing, maybe God knows what, contract for difference or something. But okay, it's just another financial transaction. You almost just have to sit and work it out and not be intimidated. Okay, now for me, if this midstreamer goes bankrupt, this whole thing falls apart. Or if we have two midstreamers, one doing it for this person, another person for this streamer, everything. That's Lehman Brothers. That's Enron. Enron had to keep, this is ancient history, Enron did this kind of stuff way back when, and I'm sure they made these diagrams, and I'm sure they were so smart and everything else. When they did this kind of stuff, when they went below investment grade, they didn't even go bankrupt. Then everything fell apart. This, when they went below investment grade, these people didn't have to keep the transaction. These people didn't have to keep the transaction. It all fell apart. If this person goes bankrupt, then this midstreamer, it's almost like an interest rate swap. You have credit risk associated. This midstreamer has credit risk for this, and this midstreamer is taking credit risk for this. This is more like a bank taking credit risk, because if you don't live up to this transaction you did in a really simple case, if Microsoft goes bankrupt, that's probably going to happen. Okay, I'm just joking. If Microsoft go bankrupt, or the developer goes bankrupt, and then they agree to this fixing of the price, then you're left with credit risk. Now that credit risk is very different than other credit risks, and we have to understand this. And so I'm going to just do this a little bit. I'll just talk about what this. And look, I even had the thing, the credit risk. This is a illustration of a regular old interest rate swap. I guess somebody is trying to sell financetrainingcourse.com. And basically, if you imagine let's can we do it with electricity, oil, exchange rate, interest rates? You've agreed to a fixed rate. Okay, that's in the interest rate swap. You've agreed to a fixed rate, and then interest rates go really, really high. And the person who is paying the fixed rate, receiving the fixed rate, they would love this interest rate swap to go away, but the other side of that transaction would hate it to go away. There's only a loss on one side of the transaction. If the prices, maybe the best way to do this is just to make a tiny little Excel sheet or something, but if the prices are always about right, if the floating prices, or those merchant prices, or those S&P prices are always just about at the fixed rate anyway, there's no loss. You get out of the transaction. You can make a new interest rate swap, a new commodity swap, a new electricity swap, maybe a new contract for difference, and the price would be the same anyway. So there's credit risk to one party, not the other. It's classic kind of credit risk, and I'm sorry. Again, I'm muffling, and I'm going through the thing, so we pretend, this company named Victoria's Secret, they went bankrupt, and pretend they had made a corporate PPA, and pretend, or one of these virtual PPAs somewhere up here, okay, whatever, however we do it, Okay, it doesn't matter who this is, and they had made this. They were going to get paid a fixed price, and let's say they were going to get paid a fixed price of 50. Just make it up. They get paid a fixed price of 50. Now the market has changed, and now the market is 20. In that case, when Victoria's Secret goes bankrupt, they are receiving the 50 and they're only paying 20. That swap is very, very favorable to them. They're getting a lot of money, paying a little money, okay? And if that swap is broken, if you get out of that swap, then this person says, great. And this person has no credit risk. If we're paying Victoria's Secret 20 and the market price goes up to 50, okay, and then I hope I have this the right way, and then Victoria's Secret down here goes bankrupt. I hope I didn't do it the wrong way. Yeah, Victoria's Secret. They're the other they're the other side. They go bankrupt, so they can't pay it anymore, and you then just receive this 20 from the market, and then you cry. So then you have, in that case, only under one circumstance do you have credit risk associated with one of these swap contracts. So it's a little bit different than our classic corporate PPA, and we have to understand that, okay? And so this you can then work through, and remember I put an example of that corporate PPA on the website. You can work through it and try to understand all the termination clauses and why people would get worried about the termination clauses. Because if Victoria's Secret goes bankrupt, then the rule would be, if you made a swap contract and then you'd be in the money or out of the money. If you're out of the money, meaning that the prices have gone, they're unfavorable for you. You can't just get out of the contract, but if you go bankrupt, you get out of it, and then how does the other person get paid? That's what you could get worried about. So they have these termination payments in the contracts, but they might not mean much. Okay, I'm going to continue. Then let's go to merchant risk. Okay, and we're going to talk about this merchant tail. Okay, and this is again, but Nord Pool is such a wonderful website to use here. Although in a way you could use others. If you just had a solar project, we need to know how much you're producing from a renewable project and what the prices are when you produce. So another fascinating question is, what will happen to merchant markets if there's no marginal cost? I said that last time, and you have to just sit there and think back. The price can't go to zero, but it's all fixed cost, and if you want something, you almost have to make a separate arrangement. You have to make a separate, in a way like a capacity payment for getting the energy, and then you have to figure out how much you're going to pay for storage and all that. The market would be dramatically different in the future, but right now we still have natural gas on the margin, and that still is driving the prices. And if you don't believe it, all you have to do is look at 2020 in Europe. Okay, and then I'm going to go back, and this is again by using those Nord Pool prices and gathering data. I wish Nord Pool would, for that fee I have to pay, I wish they would give me the natural gas as well, but you have to get that from somewhere else, and that can be tricky. And then I'd have to buy Bloomberg. Oh, shit, I don't want to pay for that. I'll never pay for that. So I have to beg somebody to give me the Bloomberg prices. That's what happened. And this is the long-term price. Okay, and then you can take the price of electricity divided by price of gas, like I've said so many times, and get the heat rate over a long period. And the heat rate went up, which means the gas plants are making money. But that heat rate is a measure, and here it was really low, so the gas plants didn't make any money. But that's for gas, not for renewable. Renewable makes high money when the gas price is high and makes low money when the gas price is low. Okay, and how do you do that? Okay, and I've got another example of a shorter time period. I'm making yet another video, and I'm sorry about that. God, too many of these today. And here's the situation in Germany. You can see it's all, anybody who starts arguing with me. I remember somebody said, no, Netherlands does not depend on natural gas. And they don't understand that if you buy natural gas from outside of Netherlands because they were burning coal or something, or if natural gas is only 10% of the market, but that's the last one to dispatch when it's dispatched, or even natural gas is only occasionally dispatched, but the real variability in prices comes from when that gas is dispatched. Even if natural gas is not much, it's not an accident that you get these kind of graphs. And here's one before the kind of run up in prices. You can see, well, we had some low heat rates here and then high heat rates, and that's kind of whatever. And it's about 8 about 6 or 7, I guess, is for a brand new gas plant. That's the heat rate. Okay, it should say MMBTU per megawatt hour. That's the right unit. I should have put it. And then here's what we're going to do differently this time. We go to the hour by hour by hour, and we have the price, and then we have the amount of wind, and that's the beauty of it. Okay, and then we have the capacity factor. Here the capacity factor was really low, and then it was higher in these during the day. And you need to do this on an hour by hour by hour basis. And then you can say, well, okay, let's just pretend we had 1 megawatt. Since this is in megawatt hours, it shouldn't be kind of split up there. Maybe I'm not even going to open the file. Maybe I'll just show you where it is, okay? I'm debating with myself whether we should open it. This is per megawatt hour. So if we have a capacity factor of 25%, we get 25% of 1 megawatt hour, and we get that price. Okay, that's how much you make. And then we do an analysis for natural gas, and I think I'm going to have to open the file to get the natural gas, and then we're going to look at this, and then, oh, this is fantastic, the video will be over, and my discussion of these merchant things will be over. So I've just got to pause and find the file just a minute, and it shouldn't be that hard to find. Now, when you do this kind of analysis, I don't see how you can do it without making an hour by hour analysis, and all those people who would say, Texas, I'm from Texas, I'm going to do it from Texas. No, you don't have the wind. Maybe you can put the sunlight in from some simulation of the hourly sunlight. Here we have the wind. Now, when you look at this file, I think I'm able to upload it, but it has 53 megabytes. Now, if I just get the file with just the electricity and the gas price, it's a lot less. So my only suggestion, if you have such a big file, is maybe keep the prices and then do an analysis a little separately. Because again, if it was pure data, it would be a pain to kind of work with. But if it's data and equations, then things get slow in Excel. That's what makes the if you want to use this horrible word named heavy, that's what it happens. So you can open this file, and I put this file. I'm not going to go. Yeah, shoot. See, I didn't want to do that. Okay. Learn German. Okay. And then let me see. I shouldn't have done that. Okay. If we go to the course and go exercises for the analysis, and then we look for the comprehensive Nord Pool wind and consumption from 1997. This should say 2023. I'm going to make sure we have one that has the wind analysis with it. I think I can upload that kind of big file, and then I'm going to then this is the corporate PPA, and this is where I did the one with, actually it's this one because I've done that hedge. Okay, see, I just can't get things right sometimes. And then when we look at our analysis, okay, that we need, I tried to use a max if. I tried to make a max if, and I think maybe I'm losing it a little. I tried to write a function for max if, and it was a little harder than I thought. I kind of stopped in the middle, so I kind of cheated. I just took the maximum amount of wind we've produced in the year and assumed every wind project is going at 100%, maybe not, okay. But then we can take and if you press F2, you'll see, okay, we've got a little thing for when we're doing the analysis, and we're taking the wind produced divided by the maximum wind and getting the production. And I hope if you I hope you can take a look at this, and it is not intimidating. And then if we have a profit on the wind, well, it's just for 1 megawatt. If it's producing at 22%, we don't get 1, we get 22%, and then we get 35, and we don't have any variable cost, at least I assume we don't. For a gas plant, it's different. For a gas plant, we need a heat rate. And this is just my Excel stuff. If you cannot press F2 and understand what's going on, there's something wrong with your Excel. I put a NA function in here. The NA function is just there for graphs. And this says if it's true, and that's the only thing you care about, then as long as the price is greater than the costs, and the cost is the heat rate multiplied by this green one, so I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I can't see the green one over here. That's the price in euro per MMBTU, which you have to get really to do this right. You could have done the heat rate in megawatt hours, efficiency, kilojoules, whatever, but the price of natural gas is often stated per MMBTU, not in Europe, as I know, but it sometimes is. Okay, and then so if the price is less than the cost of gas per MWH, you take the gas euro per MMBTU times euro per MMBTU times MMBTU per megawatt hour. You get per megawatt hour, and then you can compare the price of gas per megawatt hour with the price of electricity. If the price of electricity is less than the price of gas, then we don't dispatch. Here, the price of it was higher, we dispatch. Here, the price of electricity. It doesn't really work exactly like this. I know you have to ramp up, and you can get lost with all this crap. But as a banker, somebody who's trying to really understand what's going on, this is close enough. And you could even put variable cost in, you could get fancy. And then once you do that, once you get it right for each hour, Okay, and that's where we did the other stuff too. Once you get it right for each hour, then we're going to go. We're going to then sum it for the month. And when we sum it for the month, somewhere I better have. Here's the gas price, the electricity price. Maybe I just summed it for a year. Okay, here. And let's look at our annual analysis. I think this one. Here's the profit. Yes, it's really over a year. I just did it over a year. We use a sum if. We go straight to the hourly analysis. We sum it if the year is 2014, and we sum that profit. And we're doing 1 megawatt per hour, per hour, per hour, per hour. And I remember there was somebody in the class, I won't mention her name, because the last video I went nuts over the lawyers and the problems I'm having. And this was a lawyer who made this computation on an hour-by-hour basis in Excel. And I think then understood how you do it. You sum up. If you sum up megawatt hours over a year, you get megawatt year. And in electricity analysis, you need to understand what a megawatt year or kilowatt year versus a megawatt hour is. And when you compute the costs, they're often like the cost of O&M for solar would be euro per kilowatt per year. That's the benchmark. Or you can have the cost of a solar project, 800, let's say, or maybe 1,000, whatever. I hope it's 800 euro per kilowatt. You multiply that by some carrying charge rate, and you get the cost per kilowatt per year. And this is per megawatt, so you have to divide it by 1,000. And this wonderful lawyer kind of understood that we have to divide it by 1,000. So right now it's in European format, so we'd have to. It's got that, and that's where then if you look at this, is that the one here? This is the one, and then should I try this? This is other Denmark. This is how much profit you would have made in that region on a wind farm. Now we could put different wind in and everything else, but when we do this, we can also. Why did I not? Oh, shoot, where are the forms? Oh, no, here. Maybe I don't want to do it for other Denmark. I want to see what this same wind farm would have produced. And I just go over to the chart, this chart, I hope, and we just paste it. Now, now I'm making one more video. I don't call this other video really electricity. Well, it is. And if I want to take Copenhagen instead, it goes to the different one, and it's computing, and it's supposed to take a long time, but that's not that bad. And we get the different kind of prices. I can't remember what they were before. And then I'm going to stop talking now for, I think, a long time. I'm going to stop talking about corporate PPAs and merchant prices and all that, because I don't know anything else about these things. All right, enough.